okay, now what do I do? Like, I need to rehab. I need to like get back to be able just to squat and move again. Like, what do I do? And it was kind of going through that rehab process with the ATs, the PTs, docs, strength coaches, like getting that position and kind of having that one-on-one attention. It was really cool to see like, oh, like you can make substantial progress even from an injury to get back to be able to move well. And just the way it happened. And then that being a potential avenue for me to still stay in sports, still be able to, you know, provide some kind of value to people that I also received myself, just, pouring into each other's cups.
What's going on, Samson Strength Coach Collective listeners? On today's episode, and I want to point this out too, we're recording this at 10 a.m. on October 10th. So of a 10-10-10 series is Conner Freeland. Unfortunately, Conner does not spell his name the right way. He spells it with an E. But Conner, thank you so much for coming on the show, man.
Conner with an O, I appreciate you as well, man. And looking forward to sitting down, having this conversation with you and connecting.
Absolutely. I appreciate you, making very clear that it's with an O because of the O supremacy. But I was funny, the first time we ever had a phone call, I think that was the first question we asked each other was, how do you spell it? Because people just need to know this about each other if you're fellow Connors, for sure.
It's true. It's a small community, and you definitely got to establish dominance early. I see as you're trying to put that O above the E, but it's okay. Okay, we'll figure it out.
And, we're actually having a war of facial hair as well here. I'm rocking a pretty solid beard, I'd like to say, but you've got a full-blown cookie duster mustache. That thing is not nasty, man. I love it.
Dude, when I got to DC Fire, I had a goatee, and it probably wasn't a good goatee either. I think our COO was like, "Did you eat a squirrel or something? Like, what happened? What's wrong with your face?" But one of the captains there was like, "Hey, if you're going to do any training with us, you have to shave." And he put his hand on my face. It was like everything from here down. I was like, okay. And so that night, like, got on FaceTime with my future wife, then girlfriend. And I was like, hey, I'm going to have to like shave this. Like, do you want to be part of it? And I initially left a really, really mean Fu Manchu. And she was like, absolutely not. Like, there's no way. I was like, okay. So, and then the mustache is stuck ever since. And, it's just my first piece of stolen valor as a fake firefighter and strength coach. So that's part of it, man. Yeah. So I've just kept it ever since.
I love how he put his hands on your face. I'd be like, I'm highly uncomfortable, but I'll do what you're asking me to do right now.
Absolutely.
There's no doubt.
Great. Yeah, for sure.
Well, can you just give us your background? I mean, obviously we spoke about this on the phone and a little bit pre-show, but I think you have a very unique experience and you can really give a lot of insight to our listeners. Just speak about your background and strength and conditioning, and then what's led to your current position as well.
Yeah. So I started out as a strength and conditioning coach in my alma mater, actually. And that was as I transferred out from my first school. So I started out at Christopher Newport University playing football there, got hurt actually in the weight room, which was a big factor in me becoming a strength coach. Decided to transfer out, go back home to Longwood University, which is about 20 minutes from where I grew up in Keysville, Virginia. And through there, I wanted to get my education, get a degree to become a strength coach later on. And I had time now kind of in the afternoons to coach. And so my dad was actually the head football coach and did some of the strength and conditioning for the small high school that I grew up in. So my mom was like, yeah, you should definitely go help your dad coach. And, I'm a sophomore, junior in college, just trying to be a strength coach and maybe do football. I'm not sure. I'm not going to follow my dad's footsteps. It's crazy. And so, I was like, hey, I guess I can go help out. And so after school, I would, drive 20 minutes down to the high school and kind of just help out in the weight room, trying to figure out or put some of the pieces I had learned from being an athlete and some of the things I'm learning in class actually into practice and seeing if it works and kind of just like throwing stuff at a wall and hoping it sticks. And so I did that for the 3 years that I was there, really 2.5, and loved it. Like, didn't think I would, but there wasn't a lot of support and help at a very small rural high school in the middle of nowhere. I mean, the whole county itself doesn't have but one stoplight, and they just got it, so it's very small. So there wasn't a lot of good principles or practices at the time. And I was like, I think I can kind of do this, man. Like, this would be cool to do. Like, I'm glad I'm getting some experience now. So I got that early experience. Combine that with some internships at Elkin Sports Performance and then at Longwood itself, working with a slew of different sports. And then once I graduated, I'd already had some experience. I had 3 years of coaching in high school while I was in college, doing football and just coaching multiple sports and multiple internships. And I felt like I had a good amount of experience. I was getting close to the peak of Mount Stupid where I thought I knew everything. And so I end up taking a GA position, or what I thought was a GA position, at the University of Charleston in West Virginia. And so I'm like, whatever, 22, 23. I get there thinking that I'm going to push papers, learn from the guy that's there, hopefully have some good sports. I should have football. I'm going to be helping with the football strength and conditioning program, but then primarily I'm there to coach DBs. Like, I am a football coach there. And I get there and like, hey, man, we're really excited for you to start running the program. I'm like, yeah, I'm excited. Like, who can I help with? What do I assist with? It's like, no, you're in charge of the football program. And I was like, okay, yeah, cool. Like, I thought so. Like, I'm excited about it. And like, I am panicking at this point because now I'm responsible for football. I thought I was a GA. I am now in charge. And then I also have to still coach football as well. So at like I said, 22, 23 now, being in charge, that first year was just keeping my head above water, like just trying to do what I could to build a good program. And then as the years went, more sports would reach out and say, hey, can you help with this? Can you help with testing? Can you help with evaluations? And like, it became an actual strength and conditioning program. But that was wildly difficult. And we'll talk about that later on. And then finally, like, COVID hit. We didn't know if we would have jobs. And so I left Charleston to do something else. And then O2X just was kind of there. Costa Telegatis, one of my good buddies, and I'm sure plenty of people would know that name. He reached out and said, hey, I got this company named O2X that wants to kind of run this program at DC Fire and EMS in our nation's capital. Are you interested? Absolutely. Like, sign me up. I know nothing about fire, but that sounds like a sick job. I wanted to get in a talking to him. So take that job, work there for 4 years as a program manager and strength coach, building the program, which is very unique. And then I kind of transitioned into the role I've been in now for the last year, which is the title is assistant vice president, which sounds super fancy, but it's just account executive for business development on this side. And then some client management and some mentorship as well. So I would say it's 80, 90% business development with 10% of, trying to mentor the guys on site. How do I help them the best? How do I be a servant leader to them? And so it's drastically different than being a coach. I went from being on the floor for 8 years or so, transitioning into more program management. And then finally now completely off, not in strength conditioning, and just using what I've learned as a coach for the last decade and putting that into now building programs for other first responder communities. So really the job is to build health and wellness programs or enhance what they currently have. And drastically different, like I said, but it's been really, really cool to do, trying to find solutions for people that have these issues.
Well, I mean, there's a lot I want to dive into there, obviously, especially the GA position. But I do want to first start with, your injury. You mentioned that you had an injury within the weight room that really helped inspire you to be a strength coach. What was that injury, and what was the process that really translated into becoming a strength coach?
Yeah. So a lot of it, I think, was poor movement patterns. Looking back, like, I definitely did not move well. I was a slab of meat, like, didn't care to have mobility, just wanted to be big, strong. I was an inside, outside linebacker. And, my favorite thing to, train should have been just, power jumps and whatever. I just wanted to be as thick as humanly possible, man. Like, I mean, the more like isometric neck exercises I could do, I wanted to have just like Trevor Sheasley and I, who also works at the O2X, joke, just like Big Ten, Western Pennsylvania linebacker neck, man. Like, if you don't know a guy who has a thick neck that isn't strong, and like that mattered greatly, right? So I didn't move well at all. And it definitely affected my performance as an athlete and just like as someone in the weight room, and was also trying to prove too much as a young freshman. And it was like our first spring, we were maxing on squat, and I had already had multiple back issues from multiple strains, potential herniations, bulging discs. And, I wasn't as coachable as I probably could have been. Warmed up way too fast. And it was like somebody hit me in the low back with a sledgehammer on one of my warm-up sets. And I just dropped everything, went straight to the floor, and got up, my strength coach at the time picked me up by my belt. I feel like that's what I remember. And I think he had a little bit of room in between and still picked me up. And he was like, your belt's way too loose. Like, get out of my weight room. And I like crawled out essentially with the help of two other guys, go to the AT room. And like, long story short, to shorten it, I kind of had a choice of getting surgery and having some complications with that, or just not playing again. And so it was multiple herniated discs. There, it also, they identified some spondy in there as well. So I was going to have some troubles later on. And so I was like, I don't think I can do this. Like, it's a tough decision to make. Like I said, I'd grown up in a football household. My dad's a coach, uncle's a coach. All my brothers played. And like, how am I not going to get to my junior, senior year to play ball? This is insane. So then that, to me, I was like, okay, now what do I do? Like, I need to rehab. I need to like get back to be able just to squat and move again. Like, what do I do? And it was kind of going through that rehab process with the ATs, the PTs, the docs, strength coaches, like getting that position and kind of having that one-on-one attention. It was really cool to see like, oh, like you can make substantial progress even from an injury to get back to be able to move well. And just the way it happened, and then that being a potential avenue for me to still stay in sports, still be able to, you know, provide some kind of value to people that I also received myself, just pouring into each other's cups. And I was like, I think I'd want to do what these guys do. And a lot of the coaches I had younger have been mentors and still are to me. And so I think that was a massive piece too. So from rehab on my own, seeing that individualized attention, feeling them pour into my cup, and then also having just a lot of mentors as a kid that were just so impactful to me. I was like, I want to be that same person for others. And I think that was the aha moment, like like this is probably what you should be doing. And so that was what made me look at I'll do it however I can, pass these internships. I want to go be a GA. I want to go be a QC. I want to go work for free, whatever it is. And it might as well have been. I think the first, year I made like $9,000 or something. It was like giddy, just happy to have a role and do 1,000 different jobs at once. So that was kind of where that came from.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'm so glad you didn't get the back surgery, man. Like, it's one of those things where I've always talked about it. I've heard it from somewhere, and I think a lot of people say the same sentiment is like the rule of threes, right? Like 33% of the time it'll help you feel better. 33% of the time everything's going to remain the same and you had an unnecessary surgery. And then 33% of the time your back is going to be worse off. And I had a very, very similar experience growing up. I was middle linebacker, exact same thing like you mentioned. Like, I saw pumping iron one time and I was like, boom, that's what I want to do. I was like, and everybody's like, well, how about, any type of athletic performance? And I'm like, God, no. I was like, I got to go hit Arnold's program that's like 4x50 on curls again, please. And then of course I was so overtrained. I mean, I front squatted every day for over a year. Like, so, I mean, like, seriously, I was by far overtrained. And I remember I did a very, very similar injury to my back and I was given the same decision. And they basically, how they put it to me, I wasn't in collegiate athletics at the time. I was just in powerlifting. And they just said, you'll never be able to pick anything up over 50 pounds again, and I was like, that sounds like bullshit. Like, I don't like, what are we talking about? And so, being able to meet, a PT in college who was, I mean, fantastic to work with. And he really helped me, get back and understand that there's a realm of physical rehab that can really help you, without going the surgical route, because surgeons love to cut people open. I mean, that's their favorite thing. So if they have the opportunity to do it, they're probably going to push for it. And so I'm glad to hear it because ultimately it's a very similar story to mine. And at the end of the day, it makes a big difference. But that culture is very prevalent, especially with young football players, with young people trying to prove themselves. I did as a freshman on the powerlifting team. I sprained my ankle and I was out for like 3 weeks. I played pickup basketball like a dumbass. So I went to go pull on the bar. I was like, I can still do my back. So I was like, this feels good. So I tried to do 585 deadlift after like 3 weeks of not lifting at all. And destroyed my back. So a culture is very, very prevalent. Have you seen the same thing on the tactical side? Of younger guys who have some experience with weightlifting are really trying to prove themselves and can kind of ignore basic principles, or is it kind of isolated to college athletics that you really see that a lot?
Oh, I think you definitely see in the tactical realm, and it's just so vast and it varies greatly in terms of whether you're talking about a fire department or a law enforcement agency, military. I mean, you have a massive group, and it's just a very unique demographic because you can have an 18-year-old kid fresh out of high school. It's his first job he's ever had, who maybe is a freak athlete. And that translates over very well. Like, he's got good work ethic, he moves well, like, great effort, like, wants to learn, is coachable, obviously moves. I mean, all these things like help him in whatever role that is. But then you'll also have somebody joining the tactical realm or in the tactical realm that is, in their late 30s, maybe never moved well, never really had to move but so well for their job. And they're just trying to stay in shape just to play with their kids at home. Like, it's so different, the people that you work with. And those people might be on the same group, they might be in the same firehouse, might be on the same unit. So I think it varies greatly, but um, the thing that they need to focus on more than everything is recovery, because the culture of tactical for years has always been, hey, we're going to smoke them until we establish discipline and integrity and all the intangibles that come with the job. But if you're working so hard that you're crushing these kids that, again, might not be good athletes, and so that volume that they're putting on their body is just leading to overtraining or stressors that they can't control, and so for us, teaching recovery is paramount in how they even get through an academy or an evaluation or an evolution of something. So you have some people that want to test that, like, and they'll argue from a culture standpoint. It's like, hey, I've been doing this job for 20 years. Like, I don't need to do X, Y, and Z because, I can still do what I need to do on the fire truck, right? Like, I can think of so many people right now that have that similar mentality of, I'm going to be a big bad dude. Like, I want to be the badass on the job. And so they don't care about recovery because it's soft, or they don't care about sleep or water because it's like, I don't need that. Like, give me a Miller Lite and, 12 wings, and like, I'm good, dude. Like, I can get to the job again. But the more and more that you start to show others, or the right guys, like the heavy hitters, that it does matter, then they start to realize, okay, I can still do the job, and maybe that part's not changing, but like the effects after I do the job aren't as harsh. Like, DC especially, like when I was working there, they worked 24 and they were off for 72, which is probably one of the best shifts that you can have in shift work. Is you work on a Monday, you don't work again until Friday. So you can do the job on Monday and get your ass kicked and run 20 plus times a night, or, for that 24 hours. And maybe you get a fire, maybe you don't, but just that strain and stress on your body, right? If you had to turn around and do it again on Wednesday, some of those guys might not be able to. They absolutely would have to have those 3 days off to get back on the truck or the rig and do it again on Friday. Not everybody has that luck. There's a lot of 24/48s. There's a lot of really weird shifts out there. So you might be able to do the job, but you got to be able to recover. And so I think that's important to teach them, especially the hard chargers that think they can get out and do it time and time and again, but that truly can't. They really need to learn how to do that. And so that's a big part of the job, is also just teaching those guys simple things. It's, what's the minimal effective dose? And you're not training for peak performance, you're training for optimal performance. And so that doesn't look like crushing your body every single day. That looks like being very smart with your training, being very smart with your recovery modalities, knowing what a macronutrient is. Like, you don't need to dive into dietetics. Like, just find protein, drink more water, understand what carbs do for you, and you're going to help yourself. So it's simple stuff like that. Even like, sleep, mindset, and environment. I mean, if you can teach a guy that, blue light matters, and you can't doom scroll for hours before you go to bed and hope that you get a good 4 hours of quality sleep. And, you can't, hammer 12 beers in the night and be like, I sleep as good as I ever have after doing that. Like, yeah, you think so, but like, you get 0 REM sleep, and that's why you feel like trash the next day. Like, those things are important. And so I think simplicity at this level is good. You don't have to train the hell out of somebody to make sure that they're doing their job, because your support, you're not teaching them to do the job. And so you're trying to make sure that they have a great career of longevity. If they're putting 20 to 25 years in, they should get 20 to 25 years out on the other side. And that matters a lot. And that has nothing to do with being a hard charger for 20 years. That's got a lot more to do on the other side of training.
You mentioned something about the struggle of trying to get people to buy in. And this is kind of a thing that a common theme I've seen with tactical strength coaches, is they mention a lot, like, in college, it's very easy to get people to buy in because there's no choice, right? Like they have a guaranteed they have to be with me, and they have to do what I say, or else they're going to have to go run sprints or whatever. If the NCAA is listening, maybe clean the weight room, whatever it may be. But at the end of the day, there's this inherent, like, this is your strength coach. You have to listen to him. You have to do what he says. Whereas on the tactical side, there's really not that, inherent piece when you first come in. How did you develop buy-in with your guys? How did you get them to believe in the things you're saying? And was it just seeing the positive effects of just try it one time, or was it trying to go for the big guys who everybody else would listen to? What were your kind of main strategies?
That's a great question. So I think it varies. And I can come up with a couple different examples. I think that would be good. Like at Charleston, we're a Division II program, in the state capital of West Virginia. And so, we have some resources. We don't, again, it's Division II. We have a small weight room, 10 racks, mostly free weights. And, we have to be able to train 120 guys to be competitive and be healthy and all the above. So when you're 22 or 23, you look young, you sound young, you probably say things you might not should say, and you're still trying to figure out how to motivate and instill the discipline and integrity we talked about earlier of, like, with these men that some of them are a couple years younger than you, some of them are the same age as you. Like, dude, D2 stands for second chances, baby. And I mean, you got plenty of guys to transfer in there that are your age. So you can't be fake, I think, is like the first lesson I learned early on, is like, you have to be a real dude and you have to be authentic. And that authenticity shines through literally anything else that you can portray as a coach, is being genuine, caring about your players, and acting on that. Like, you can't just talk about it, you have to be about it, and you can't have fake juice. And that is huge. I mean, I think everybody can remember, whether it's a T-ball coach or even a college coach potentially, that just like was a big rah-rah clapper, loud for no reason, but like never really coached. And there's a big difference in trying to get in a room and motivate people and just being loud, versus being an educator. And when you kind of have both, and you're trying to motivate guys, you're bringing juice in the room, try to stay positive, not happy-go-lucky positive, but just having a positive, optimistic outlook that, hey, we're going to have a good day. We got to get after it. Like, there needs to be effort. Here's why. What's your purpose? Like, constantly bringing that stuff into the room, I think, is important. But also, being real with the men or women, if you have women's sports as well, is going to go a lot longer, and it's going to pay more dividends than having the perfect program. So I think trying to build relationships early matters more than anything. So, as you're walking around the room, and again, it's a small room, constantly coaching, constantly cueing, trying to find things with movement patterns or just exercises that are going to really benefit that person, and explaining why it's going to matter. Hey, this is why you need to get your head above your head. This is why you need your elbow right beside your ear for this overhead press. And here's why, like, the way it's going to go straight through your body here versus there. And like, this is what it could impact. So you're providing some educational context, but you're also showing that athlete that, like, hey, I'm watching you, you matter. I'm trying to improve you for these reasons, and here's why. And if you do that over and over and over in different mediums, I think you end up having early buy-in there, because, like, hey, this guy or this girl sounds like they know what they're talking about. They seem to be here for us. They're always early. They have a plan. They're prepared. That seems to matter to them. And so, maybe it should matter to me. Like, and you do that time and time and again, and there's consistency with that. And I think that's how you establish that buy-in. And so that helped me a lot as a young coach, was like, not trying to be a 30-year-old guy that knew everything. Telling them if I didn't know something, guys, I don't know it, but we're going to figure it out together. Not lying through your teeth, I think mattered greatly. And that really helped me establish a good reputation early on as a coach, even across the community there at Charleston. Just like, hey, this guy really cares. He wants to be here. And I'm pretty upfront with them early that, like, the weight room or sport in general is just a vehicle for you to be a better person later on in life. And that's my ultimate goal. So talking about accountability and discipline, and saying the little things matter, and then backing that up, like being a man that actually stood on that. Like, if you need to have the 2.5s in a specific place, by God, put the Cheerios back. Like, they better be there where I asked. Or like, if we're going to have clips on the bar today for some reason, like, we're putting clips on the bar, like, it matters. If not, everyone's going to pay for it. Like, I think when you have the ability to have some autonomy in your room, when you have that kind of power and you get to run your own program, I think that also was massive, because what I believed went in that room outside of what some of the head coaches wanted, but I still had as much autonomy as I needed to get the job done. And so, if I wanted to stop the whole thing and go do something different, we stopped and learned some hard lessons. And so I think being who you are, not being fake, like showing people that you care on a daily and hourly and by the minute basis, is a way to build buy-in. And I kind of use that same thought process with DC Fire, because when I got there, I knew nothing about fire. Like, I've made this joke time and time again of like day one, I had a guy from O2X who was like, we were looking over at a site. We were at Frederick County Fire, which is where one of the first on-site specialist programs was for O2X. And I was kind of explaining that I didn't know anything I needed to learn. And I said, okay, so that's a fire truck. And, the boss was like, no, that's a fire engine. I said, okay, well, so that's a fire engine. He's like, no, that's a tiller. I was like, okay, so that's a truck. He's like, yeah, it's also a truck. It's like, how do you know? Like, and we kept going on, and he's like, dude, I don't know, man. You might not be good for this, And jokingly, he's like, you're gonna have to learn a lot. But it took forever to learn that. So I also went in to that job explaining to people, guys, I'm not a firefighter. I don't know what you do, but I want to know what you do. I want to learn the job, so that way I can train you better, so I can find programs that fit what your demands are, so I can understand the issues and the concerns, whether they are individual or organizational, that I can benefit and provide solutions for. So learning the job was massive. And so the way I built buy-in there was still taking the same authentic approach and being a guy, being a dude, walking in the room, wanting to have genuine relationships, asking people about who they were, where their backgrounds are, what makes them tick, but also just learning the job mattered greatly. And so for me to do that, it was a lot of ride-alongs, getting in the back of an engine or a truck and just seeing what their daily operation looked like. Getting there really early and seeing what a daily check looked like, and how many things they have to get done in the morning before potentially a run goes off, or maybe the tones go off and it's 8:30. They just got there an hour and a half, 2 hours ago, and now they have to go do a job. Like, it's stressful, and you don't get it until you do it. And so, putting the gear on and doing training with the guys is and was still one of the best ways to get buy-in, because you get to learn the job firsthand. You get your ass kicked a little bit with the guys, and there's something about, shared torment, but then also they see you doing the best you can to learn the job without doing it. And you do that over and over and over, and it's going to provide massive, massive impact for you and the organization. So I did that the first 6 months as much as I could. If somebody was doing some training, I would just ask, hey, do you mind if I try? Or, oh, why'd you guys force the door that way? I don't get it. And you have enough educators around you that they get excited to share, and they go, oh, well, this is why you use a Hallinan bar, and here are the different ends to it. And this is why we would use it in these certain circumstances. And so you learn that, and you go, hey, do you mind if I try? And you look like an idiot, and they laugh at you. And then sometimes you're good at it, sometimes you're not, but it shows that you're invested. And I think that's no matter what, whether it's college sports, whether it's tactical, if you can show your population that you're invested, then they're going to care a little bit more. And as the cliche goes, nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care. But that, I think, is drastically true among the tactical population. You could be a smart student in the room, but like, if you're not someone that's going to be genuine and care and want to provide some servant leadership to your population, then you're going to struggle mightily. So creating buy-in, I think, is huge. And there's a lot of ways to skin a cat, but I think people know people, and you got to have that genuine connection.
I think you bring up one of the best and most underrated points, which is just asking questions. When I first started working with volleyball, like, football was easy for me because I played football. Basketball was tough. I've been terrible at basketball. I'm a disgrace to the game, but ultimately there was a lot of lessons learned along the way. And so I had volleyball for the first time this year, and there's nothing I could do to go back and become a volleyball player again. I can't rewind the clock when I'm 5 and go up to my mom and dad and say, I really want to play volleyball, so I can really understand it. And so I think a lot of younger coaches get concerned or have a fear of working with sports they're not familiar with, which is understandable because there is some immediate buy-in, right? If somebody can look up your stats, like just the other day in our basketball group chat, they sent a highlight video of one of our assistant coaches dunking in a game at Clemson, right? Like he was a really good basketball player. So there's buy-in to those things. But at the same time, it's not this insurmountable task, right? And so you can go in, and if you simply ask questions, and like you said, if you're not afraid to make a fool of yourself, it really breaks down a lot of these barriers. And so with volleyball, I was like, I'm like, what the hell does side out mean? Like I keep hearing that at the games. Like, what does that mean? Like, cause I can't see a consistency among it. And then they explained it to me. Right. Or I'll ask them about different offensive sets. Cause I've got no clue. Like, I had no clue you run plays in volleyball. Like, obviously it makes sense. Right. But at the same time, I kind of thought it was everything was on the fly, so being able to have those conversations really opened the door for them to see that, you can be humble, you can have a little bit of humility to you. And then it opens up a two-way street too, right? Because now all of a sudden they're more willing to take feedback from you because you're not somebody who's just going to go in and pretend and, try to, like I love the term you used earlier, right? Like the stolen valor, right? You're not going to go in with a mustache and, try to just look around and say things incorrectly because you're just trying to be the guy who already knows everything. So I think the humility aspect is huge. And I appreciate you bringing up the questions aspect of it. Obviously I can tell that some of this stuff was learned from experience. You mentioned being 20, 22, 23, whatever it may be, and trying to figure out these initial lessons. What was that experience becoming a GA and then finding out you're really the head strength coach?
Dude, man, it was, life changing, for sure.
Yeah.
In
Great
every
way to put it.
shape or form. Like, it was tough to really expect one thing and then show up literally day one and say, hey, you're going to be doing something not different, but you're going to have a little bit more on your plate than you expected. Um, and it was also tough because I think I'd grown up in a way that seeing guys have mentors and leaders in their life, and they helped them a lot. And I didn't have that now. So that was another piece of the puzzle. I think that was really difficult. Was I didn't have somebody to really, at least on site, to go back and forth with questions. And that, from the teams I've worked in has been, one of the biggest facets of any team or program that has made, a group or a client successful is like being able to bounce ideas back and forth and having a sounding board that you can just, hey, is this stupid or is this good? Like, what do you think? So a lot of that had to be outsourced, if you will, to like other people, guys I just met, and like, I'm reaching out to like college buddies who are trying to do the same thing I'm doing, and I'm trying to reach out to guys at other teams in the conference who have had some programs, and there's only a handful. Like there's not a bunch in the Mountain East Conference at that time. So I'm reaching out to them, like not knowing, like, is this okay if I reach out to a competitor? Like, hey, what do you guys do? Like, I'd love to learn, but I think probably for me, it was probably like, hey, like, I don't know what I'm doing, guys. Can you help me? And it probably didn't come off great, but I was just trying to find people to reach out to have an ear and listen. And so sometimes it was older guys in the generation. Like Mike Kent was one for me who's super helpful. My dad had worked with him in the past years and years ago, and he's like, I think I know a guy. He's older. Like, I think he's good. He's been around a ton of places though. He should be able to help you. And so I called Mike, and he's a guy who's done this for almost 30 years. And I'm like, this guy's going to help me. And he just gave me everything he had. He sent me manuals of stuff. Like, he sent me as much information as I could possibly have. And even just that stuff, I was like, okay, this is good. And he's helping me, but I still don't have him on site. But I think taking that and then also making it my own was good for me as a young coach, because I'm lucky I did it, because I feel like a lot of guys, if I gave them, or if anybody gave them a program, right, they might look at it and just go, this is a great program. Let's run it for our population. Like, this is great. If it worked for LSU football, by God, it's got to work for DC Fire, right? And 9 times out of 10, that might not be the case, right? Like, it might be good for a couple people, but I think taking what you can learn from others and then modifying it and manipulating it so that it fits your population, or it fits the season of whatever your athletes are in, or if it's the demand that you're trying to impose there, then I think that's good. I think that's helpful, is not just completely stealing something, but obviously success leaves clues find what those things are and then mold them to fit what your system or your format is good. And honestly, I learned that quickly from Mike, because I think he even said it like, hey, I'm going to send you this, but like with all due respect, and it was one of the Florida manuals. He's like, our guys and your guys are not the same. Like how much I can throw at these guys and how much you can throw at your guys aren't it. And I'm like, yeah, like I'm thinking of like my 5'9", 250-pound fullback from West Virginia, who's like, he's probably not the 6'4" freak of nature they have it, So taking that and realizing, okay, I have this, I still have a lot of work to do to build this program, but I can make it my own is helpful. So that was tough, was just trying to come up with ideas and things that were going to work for the population, and reaching out to people who I didn't really have a good connection with or good relationship with, and humbly asking for feedback and advice. And then that was really, I think, one of the things that kept me in the strength world was people, the good ones, good coaches were like, yeah, I'll share anything with you, knowing that you're going to have to tailor it yourself. Like you can be as good of a, you can have the best program in the world, but if you're not a good coach, it doesn't matter. And them explaining that to me, like, hey, but I'm going to send you this, but if you don't run it the right way or run it like yours, it's not going to matter. Like you can, you got to be able to run peanut butter and jelly really, really well. And then, sell peanut butter and jelly. So that was tough to learn. Having limited resources early on was tough, because I'm expecting all these different pieces of equipment to use. I made the joke, I think, to Lima, like, dude, I didn't know what velocity-based training was until I left Charleston. Like, I was like, we're never going to use it. There's no technology now we have to do this stuff. Like, it just doesn't exist for us. So that was drastically difficult. And then just the schedule itself was wild. Like, we played some Thursday night games, which was really cool. Like, you think you're going to start coaching on Saturdays and all your games are Saturday, and, now the sun's out. That's not as cool as Friday Night Lights, but play some Thursday night games, play some Saturday night games. And, you play Thursday, let's say you're 4 hours away, you're taking a bus back, you get home at 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. And then like the development lift is at 5:30. And like, you just got to hope you sleep on the bus, like have everything prepared. And all the other coaches are like, all right, we'll see you guys, at the 9 a.m. or 10 a.m., staff meeting, we'll sleep in a little bit. It's like the one strength guy on staff is like getting up, running the development, group, and still having to break down film and still recruit. So, I mean, doing that, like, it teaches you so much. Like D3, D2, small ball guys, like who you're washing clothes, you're recruiting, you're traveling around to sit in people's living rooms to explain why they should go to their program. You're building out practice plans, breaking down film, plus running whatever extra job you have. It might be the director of operations. It might be the strength guy. Like, it's just nonstop all the time. And that was a big shift for me, was like, you're up before the sun's up. You're going to bed well after it's gone down. And I think that's a part of strength conditioning that if you can stay with it and do it and live it, then hey, you're going to be built for this type of industry for most jobs. But it was a very hard thing to get used to and still be good at the job as well. So that was wildly difficult, but I honestly to God would not change it because of the autonomy piece and being able to do whatever I wanted to, however I wanted to, for the most part, and just learn by failure. And I would say we failed a ton. I failed a ton as a coach early and still do. But being able to learn from those mistakes and build upon them, and to still be able to run the program and like know, hey, we're learning, we're getting better, was awesome. Like, we saw the first two NFL draft picks for the whole conference come out of Charleston while we were there. We had guys break 12 different records while we were there, like all-time records in the weight room. Like, it was really cool to see that stuff, but it took a very long time and a lot of trial and error to get to that position where we felt like we had built a really good program, tons of strong guys, and having success on and off the field. It was cool, but I don't know if it happens if I'm there and there's another guy potentially, and it's like maybe I only get 2 years to be the head coach. But like having 5 solid years, like I left being like, this is a program that's established. I feel good about leaving this. Like, I feel like I left it better than I found it. And I hope that they can carry this on for a while. And they have. Like, it's cool to go back now and see, like, they have a staff. They always have a full-time strength conditioning coach, which they didn't before I got there. And so, like, that, hopefully part of that legacy was built, it lasts, and that program continues to get better, which I think is the ultimate goal for wherever you work. Just leave it a little bit better than you found it. So a lot of lessons learned, man, but it was a really cool experience.
I really appreciate you talking about kind of the grind aspect of it. I think it's one of those things that you kind of have to teeter and you have to toe the line a little bit with it, because ultimately, it's not everlasting, right? You can't do that for 30 years. At some point you want to have a family, you want to have kids, and you don't need to be washing clothes and missing your kids' dance recital, right? But at the same time, I feel like there's been a lot of advice for younger strength coaches that goes a little too far to the opposite side of saying, avoid these jobs, don't do this, and I think everybody needs that experience for 2 to 3 years, right? Because like now if somebody asks me to do something, I'm like, yeah, sure. Like, who cares, right? Like I have to take over snacks when we travel on the road. Like, who cares? I've done way worse. Like at the end of the day, like it's pretty sweet that I've only got 3 teams right now. And there's not, this fear of like, well, I don't literally have the time to do it. I've always got time now. So I think understanding that you've been through worse, you've been through something that was really challenging and you were able to leave it better than you found it, ends up making everything you do in the future a lot easier to encounter.
Oh, like couldn't agree more. I think that work ethic is built. Like you don't just wake up and have it. Like I mean, it's built from years and years and years of like the callous work ethic, and um, that, like you said, pays dividends because in most of the jobs within tactical, it's like you work your 40 hours and you don't work anymore because we're not going to bill you, and like there's just some standards there to it. Um, Whereas on the flip side with collegiate and sports, it's like you're going to work as long as you possibly have to, and here's why. And so you get this like completely different perspective of what like a really hard day looks like versus like your normal 40 hours a week job. And you also find out how to prioritize, I think, is
Mm.
like it's weird. It's a combination of like prioritizing, but then also being able to work on the fly. Like you have to constantly be balancing these things because you wake up and you have 20 things on your to-do list. And then you get coaches that tell you, oh, no, we're going to change this today. Like we're actually not going to have a lift at 2. We're going to actually push it to 2:30. You cool with that? It's like that 30 minutes changed the entire rest of my day because of that. But you have to work with it because that's what you have on your plate. So being able to just constantly function and change that, I think is a really good trait of a coach, where if you can work on the fly and you can be relatively creative or innovative with how you make adjustments, I think you're going to be a really good coach because you're good at like going with the flow, adapting as you need to, but then still knowing that you need to get a specific result at the end of the day or the week or the month or the season. And if you can have success and all that stuff's getting thrown at your way, and you can still be good at your job, be good at away from your job as a person, I think you're on the right track. I think that's probably a good place, but not always do you get that thrown at you if you have like just your standard, hey, 40 hours a week type of job. Sometimes you do, depends on what group you work with, but for sure in collegiate and sports, like there's a lot of moving parts and variables that occur. But I think the same, honestly, now that I'm saying this out loud, um, the same can be said for sure with tactical. Like we always compared our recruit academy schedule to that of basketball, where let's say you got 3 to 4 sessions that week and you're going to be training them and you know exactly what you're going to do. And even at the beginning of the season, you put down your entire plan. You go, all right, here's this big packet. Here's what we're going to do the whole season. We got the whole thing planned out for the most part. And then at the end of the season, you go, all right, we ran 19% of what we started with at the beginning of the season. That's great, man. That's super good. I love that for us. The same is said with tactical. Like we would wake up and, the lifts plan, we're good, we're ready to go. And then something happens. We're like, hey, we're going to change this. We're going to make a pivot because we have to get this training done specifically today. It's like, okay, like we'll adjust. And then you move on, you change your plan. Or the recruits got in trouble because they didn't do something specific and they got absolutely smoked in the tower. And so now their legs are shot, they're overly fatigued, and you're supposed to hit, your best of 3 rep maxes tomorrow front squat. It's like, well, maybe we don't do that now because our goal is to keep everybody as healthy as possible, and member retention is what we're looking for. So now we can't do that. So now we got to adjust and push that out. So I would say take that, in the same light, it's very, very similar, where if you can work with those changes, you'll be good at either one. And I think that's why it matters, is to be able to have multiple things on your plate and still be good.
Yeah, I think with the whole world of strength and conditioning, if you're not able to adjust on the fly, you're just going to become unnecessarily frustrated. Like you're just going to be mad all the time because if you put all this time into this plan and then you treat it as your baby and well things can't change, then I mean the environment that we're in is not going to change. You have to be the one who's going to change. I mean this is the reality of the situation. So you're going to be unnecessarily mad all the time. Like we got, I mean, like the perfect example is yesterday, our coach 2 weeks ago told me, hey, on Thursday, our lifts, you have to be like 15 minutes. I'm like, great, that's fine, whatever. Right. And then I got 5 minutes. So we literally did like an arm pump real quick and then left. And then yesterday, he came up to me and was like, oh, I promise you, we're going to be done in time. You'll have 20 minutes today. And I'm like, perfect, coach, for sure not. And by the end of like the meeting we had at the end of practice and everything, I didn't get to lift him at all, so it's one of those things where this is going to happen continuously. So I can either get really mad about it and be frustrated about it, or you can just let it roll off your back and, continue on, because at the end of the day, it's not going to help you last in strength and conditioning. One thing I'm very curious about is you've mentioned switching into a role that's more business development. What are some things that you miss being what are some things that you miss about being out on the floor? And then what are some things that, you're okay with leaving behind?
Yeah. I mean, the biggest thing about being on the floor is like the people and the connection with your athletes. And that's always hard to replace because, it's a different feeling. Um, Being out there, even from, collegiate to tactical, like collegiate, you can have a room full of just, guys who really want to get after it and are moving heavyweight. And like, you got a great playlist going. I'm a big music guy. So I got to have some good music going, man. Like every day is, going to be unique. And, uh, every Thursday we played Return of the Mac. It was the first song that ever played every Thursday for Throwback Thursday. Every single one of my athletes are going to know that. But, um, I think having that juice and like being excited and there's a lot of like fire in the room is one thing. Then you get to tactical and you have a little bit of that sometimes, but it's a different level, a different feeling of training. But whether it's the juice in the room and having that feeling of a big max day or just having a good group in the room that like they care about being better, or maybe they're trying to pass a squad test and they're very intentional with their training and they want to be there and they want to lift hard, but maybe it doesn't feel the same. You're still having so many really good conversations and connections during each one of those days and those lifts. And that's hard to replace, is like the genuine care for others and trying to make them better at their sport or their job. And now you don't have that, right? So you go through this like identity, not crisis, but like you question about who am I now? Because you work so long, so hard, your career is your life. And the title coach is an earned title that you can't find anywhere else. It's made with respect and love, and it should be. And like, being called coach is just as good as a doctor being called, Dr. Smith. I mean, like, hey, this guy's a doctor. You need to call him doctor. Like, it's just, to me, I view it the exact same. Like, being called coach is one of the best feelings because it should hold a lot of weight and a lot of value. And so that's difficult to leave behind, is because like, hey, you're not a coach, you're a person. Like, so I had to really figure out, aside from the job thing, like, who am I outside of coaching? Who am I outside of my career? And it was incredibly healthy. I will say that, like, physically and mentally, like really digging in and having some hard conversations with yourself. It's like, hey, like, if you introduce yourself and they go, hey, that's cool. Like, who are you? What do you do? You shouldn't start it with just like, oh, I do this for a job. Like, it should be more centered around who are you outside of work. And sometimes that is difficult to like come to grips with. But it made me a better person because what I was able to do was, and this came from talking to a lot of guys, a lot of close friends in the industry, is like, not only who are you outside of the job, but like what traits can you pull from coaching or who you are and bring them into what you do as a career. And it, hit on some of the same things we've already discussed, which is like that servant leadership mentality, having an unparalleled work ethic that you can bring over to the side, being intellectually curious and trying to figure out like how certain systems, maybe even for business development, can work with O2X and like what we're trying to do with creating solutions for the tactical population. And just that also that genuine interest in people and building connections, like real authentic connections. And so taking all those lessons learned as a coach and now putting them into the business world, like you can still see some success and some things starting to click now, even a year in, when it takes a little bit longer. It wasn't like this early massive boom. But as the months kind of start to stack up, you can see like some of the early conversations coming to fruition because those real connections and authentic relationships now are starting to pay a little bit more dividend. And I think that matters greatly, as it does with coaching or business. Like people can read through bullshit, um, and nobody likes that. And like if you're doing too much or you're not doing enough, the same way as a coach, if you're hovering constantly and you're annoying the hell out of your guys, like they're not going to want to talk to you. If you're not doing enough and you're the coach that just wants to hang out on the iPod and pick the next good song and clap and lean up against the GHD, like cool, like you're probably not going to be worth the shit either. So it's that really good happy medium of being observant enough to coach and cue, give people space that need space, give those that attention that need to be built up, and being able to read the room. And the same is said on this side. It's like if I'm trying to get a hold of somebody and I'm hammering them constantly, and now I'm a telemarketer that I'm just trying to get someone on the phone, like that's pretty damn annoying. Um, if I call them once every 6 months, it's like, how are they really invested or interested in like being a partner with us? Maybe, maybe not. But if I'm providing value in some way with each conversation, and it's asking them, let's say hypothetically, fire department AI call, how do you guys currently operate? What are some of the occupational health concerns that you have? And I listen and I take in what they say, provide some solution, and then have continuous impactful feedback and follow up. Now we're getting somewhere because now I'm a resource to them and there hasn't been any transaction yet. Like maybe they haven't actually invested in what O2X does or what any tactical population does, but I care about them. I'm reaching out if something happens in their area. Hey, I saw this happen. Like, are you guys all okay? Like what went on here? Being in the know of what's going on with their department. And even sometimes like, providing some feedback there. Like I talked to a group that um that was somewhat interested in coming on and having us embed a full-time specialist, kind of like I was at DC, but just kind of kept tiptoeing around. And I kept trying to reach out to this guy specifically about the job, like, hey, what's going on here with this? I saw this in the news, like, or hey, we're working with somebody near you guys, maybe this will provide some interest with it. And then it just clicked. Like this dude was a massive sports fan. And so I just started talking sports with the guy, and like I'd hit him up when a good game happened. Like, oh, I saw the score, man. Like that's awesome, dude. Like that's, were you guys there? I hear that you guys always work at the Bills stadium. I was like, oh, like such a sick game. Like, were you guys working? And since then, like all we talk about is Bills Mafia, dude. I mean, just smashing tables and crushing beers. Like, and at some point in time when they do need something for health and wellness, whether it's training, education, or embedding that full-time person, or maybe it's a customized program specific to no one else but them, like we hopefully will be front of mind. I will be front of mind because like I'm building a connection. Maybe it's not specifically geared towards the job. It already has been. We've gotten all that stuff knocked out, but like I found a way to at least keep the connection warm enough where if they need something, we're here. I'm not bugging him about something he don't want to talk about, but I'm still at least getting enough touch points where when it happens, hopefully, he reaches out. So that's been cool. And trying to like find, again, the traits from strength conditioning and bring them over here. Unique, but definitely I think useful. But it's been a weird transition, very weird transition. Like, it's a remote job. Like this is the office, I just moved, so everything's everywhere. Hopefully you can't see that. You see like the little corner of a thing I'm going to hang up at some point, but
looks very organized on my end.
a blank white wall is what I'm going for here. So yeah, like setting up an office is weird. I've never had an office. Like, even when I got to DC, like, we were all collectively like in a trailer. In the first month, I just ate lunch in my car because I didn't know where to go. They didn't have a specific place for me to go. And so like, it's just a completely different world where you're used to having a team and interacting with people on a daily basis and, getting your caffeine in early because you're going to have conversations as soon as you step foot in the weight room or at your facility or whatever. And now it's a complete 180 of like just being disciplined yourself and doing the work and still completely autonomous, but like you set the direction, you set the tone of the day, just for you, nobody else. And so working as a coach, I felt like I worked for others and constantly trying to pour into other people and live that servant leadership life or leader life. And now it's completely different. I'm now trying to convince other people when I reach out to them about business development that like I can help them and I've helped others and we can help you. And so you're having to break down that barrier initially, and then you get right back to what building relationships. So it's different.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be such a interesting transition, I'm sure, especially the working from home piece. Okay, so my final question for you: you are working remote, you are at home. Do you still start every Thursday with Return of the Mac?
I mean, I am now. Yeah, that's a great question. I've really fallen off of who I am, Connor. I got to get back.
You said not a crisis, but this seems like a crisis if you're not starting the day with Return of the Mac on Thursdays.
I'm gonna have to. Yeah, there are a couple things I still do, like the coffee ritual is a thing. I'm completely addicted to that, and like, I mean, it's got to be straight diesel, good stuff. But yeah, I'm gonna have to bring that back. I still have players now that like some of them are doing it in their locker room, and guys are like, "What is this?" And they're like, "Shut up, you don't understand. Like this is tradition." Like, and it's good. It's good that exists, or it'll pop up on their Spotify, and I'll just get random screenshots of Return to the Mac, and I love it, dude. Like I absolutely love it. But I'm gonna bring that back now next Thursday. It's gonna happen. I'll send you a message about it.
Please do, please. And also, it's just so funny because I love that song and I actually fought tooth and nail to get that on our wedding playlist. So I'm glad that
Come
you
on,
have
man.
the same appreciation.
I'm glad you fought for it.
Well, Conner, thank you so much for coming on the show, man. Seriously, I really appreciate it. And I think you gave us a lot of really good insight. If somebody wants to follow you or get in contact with you potentially about some services O2X provides, what would be the best way to do that?
Yeah, so it's just first name at O2X.com. So it's the correct spelling of Connor. It's CONNER at O2X.com. And then socials are pretty easy to find. LinkedIn, I'm on there. Reach out, however. I'm always willing to talk to young coaches just about the role, about what we do. And then same thing with the tactical population. Anybody that's interested in O2X, we'd be more than happy to talk to them and just connect with anyone, man. I love networking. I love meeting new people. And so, yeah, feel free to reach out whenever.
Yeah, I hope you understand that I have the final say in this. So I may have to edit out the wrong Conner, or ultimately, what I'm going to title the episode is the wrong way to spell Conner. That's it. That's what we'll go with.
Yeah, that's fine. That works, man. All good.
Well, thank you, Conner. I really appreciate you, man.
Yeah, man. Appreciate you. See ya.